And we're back here at Boom and Bust having a conversation with Shannon Joseph. She is the chair of Energy for a Secure Future. Shannon, I have to ask this question. Obviously, we're in the world of U.S. tariffs now, and including in the energy sector. So tell us your reaction or responses to these new tariffs.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that Canada and the US are no longer going to have a free trade relationship when it comes to energy. The United States did impose the 10% tariff on our oil and gas exports, which is a really important part of our export economy. But it's also an important part of the US economy and their petrochemical sector. Many of those operations in the US rely on Canadian energy, specifically in the traits of our energy. So, um, I hope that can change, because I think having tension on that relationship is going to stand in the way of some of the opportunities I was speaking about earlier, which is how does North America really become a partner to the world on energy,
Mm.
and how does that energy relationship then strengthen other relationships, if you will, the relationship between the democratic world and across the globe. So, yeah, I'm hoping that this is a temporary thing and that we can move beyond this.
We all are hoping that. Does this sort of trend line? I mean, I would argue that tariffs aren't going to go away. They may be altered in terms of the percentage or what industries they will be applied to. But I think we are in the world of tariffs from the United States for the near future anyway. Does this support the argument that you're making for new markets in a sense?
Absolutely. And I think we need to kind of continue to work with the US to get back to free trade, but I also think this moment has been an important one for Canada thinking again in a more serious way about diversifying our markets. And this is something maybe people paid lip service to,
Right.
but then we kept canceling projects that would have made that possible. I think now people are, and governments, both provincially and even federally, are speaking in a different way. And I think that's important. And I hope this is something that endures as well, because you can't build these projects, in a year. And so we need to have a refocused commitment around being a world player on energy. And I think that will set the stage for us to have more wealth as a country. There's lots of discussion that's been had over the last year about our lowering per capita GDP, lowering per capita income. We need to turn all of these things around, for the good of Canada and our population, but also for the good of the world, because there's a lot we could do for the world if we really focused on that.
It used to be that it was the government of Alberta and the government of Saskatchewan, perhaps, that were really leading the charge on seeing energy as not only a present but a future benefit for all Canadians. That seems to be now more acknowledged by Premier Ford in Ontario and maybe even in Quebec. Is this a positive sign for you?
Yes, the fact that Premier Legault in Quebec talked again about resurrecting the LNG Saguenay project, that's the fact that people are kind of there's a little bit of buzz around Energy East, like this is great. And as I mentioned earlier, BC has also kind of
Right.
stated some commitments around making these things happen. I think that's good and it needs to endure. And other things need to come with it in terms of some of those regulatory changes and really a process to make things work faster in Canada. It took 16 years to get LNG Canada from kind of the starting line to now shipping.
Mm.
It can't take 16 years again
No.
for us to get in this game if we really want to be a contributor on the world stage. And, every conversation I've had, and I've had lots of conversations as well with diplomats from different countries, they all want Canada's energy. And so we really need to look at how to make this opportunity a reality for our country and for the world.
No, and you raised that point. Uh, we talked about the regulatory framework already, but really it is an impediment when we have 1 or 2 decade timelines to get these projects to fruition. That's got to change, right?
It's got to change.
Yeah. Well, I hope it does, and certainly, are you? We've got about 25 seconds left. Are you kind of optimistic about the future then?
I'm optimistic because, as you said, this kind of new relationship with the U.S. is not going to be a temporary thing. It really has spurred a different kind of reflection in
Right.
Canada about what are we going to do? What place do we want to have in the world? What does that mean for what we build? What does that mean for our systems, for our financing tools? There was
True.
a real step away from the Net Zero Banking Alliance, both in the United States and Canada,
Right.
and that's going to make new things possible potentially for projects that are important.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think there's just at every level a new kind of discussion happening,
We're
and
gonna
that's
have
really
to
important.
we're gonna have to leave it at that. But Shannon Joseph, thanks for joining us today for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.